Today I'm remaking an old video of mine, my 40-team NHL expansion concept video. This video is the second most viewed video on my channel, which I guess means that hockey fans really like talking about expansion. And I think the takeaway there is that the majority of hockey fans agree that more people deserve a local team to cheer for, so that way more people can be exposed to this fantastic sport. Now, some things in this video are going to be different from the original, otherwise there wouldn't really be a point in making this. But before I continue, I need y'all to understand something real quick. I don't necessarily think the NHL needs to expand to 40 teams, nor do I think it's going to anytime soon. The entire point of this video is just to showcase the cities I think deserve NHL teams. That's literally it. This is a completely hypothetical scenario that I'm talking about for fun, and I have to explain this before y'all go and leave dumb comments. Now, before I showcase the new cities, I have to make one small change to the alignment of the conferences. If you've seen the original video, you know what I'm about to do. So, the Nashville Predators have been moved from the Western Conference to the Eastern Conference. The reason I did this is that so after I showcase the 8 new cities, there should be 10 teams in each division. And I mean, look how far east Nashville is. You can't tell me they wouldn't benefit from this from a travel standpoint. Anyways, with all that out of the way, let's get into the cities. First up is Portland, Oregon. The last time I made an expansion concept video on the NHL, a lot of people in the comments mentioned Portland. And you know what? I've come around to this idea. All you guys who recommended Portland, I see your vision. Portland already has a suitable arena in the Moda Center, and while it doesn't regularly host hockey games anymore, it is equipped to. Portland is one of the 3 major cities in the Pacific Northwest, and is the only one without an NHL team. However, that's not to say they aren't acquainted with the sport. The city has a WHL team, the Portland Winterhawks, and they've also had some professional teams in the past. Existing Portland teams, especially the Timbers, already have a very strong and passionate following, and there's not a doubt in my mind that would translate well over to hockey. A lot of hockey fans here in the Pacific Northwest agree that Portland should get a team. While the sport thrives in Seattle and Vancouver, it has a lot of growing to do in Portland, and believe me, it's shown glimpses of being able to be a great NHL city. Next is San Diego, California. America's finest city has really been unlucky when it comes to pro sports. They lost the Clippers, they lost the Chargers, and the Padres have been irrelevant for most of their existence, having only made the postseason 8 times. But you know, it's not all bad. They just got a Major League Soccer team, so that's something. And you know what? I think it's time the NHL gives San Diego a try too. San Diego is the 8th largest city in the United States, so I'm really surprised it's not talked about more as a potential expansion city. Hockey's well supported here, there's no question about that. Their AHL team, the San Diego Gulls, have some of the best attendance in the league. You can sure as hell bet they'll support an NHL team too. San Diego would be in good company if they got an NHL team, sharing a state with the teams that comprised one of the best rivalries in the NHL in the 2010s. A rivalry that's due for a resurgence, mind you. The only thing standing in San Diego's way is the lack of a state-of-the-art NHL arena, but if they managed to get one built, they would make a strong case for themselves as a contender. Next is Phoenix, Arizona. Oh, Phoenix. You guys were really dealt a bad hand. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's no surprise the Coyotes failed. They had a revolving door of incompetent owners, they got kicked out of their home arena, and they didn't commit to a proper rebuild until it was too late. But you know what? I miss the Coyotes. I miss their fire uniforms. I miss Howler. And you know what? I don't blame the NHL for trying to give the Coyotes as many chances as they could have possibly given them. During the periods when this team actually looked somewhat competent, we saw firsthand that people would show up in droves to support this team. There's demand for hockey in this state. Don't let anyone tell you differently. With that out of the way, if Phoenix were to hypothetically get another team, there are some things that should probably be done to ensure that it's actually a success this time. Like actually having a suitable, state-of-the-art hockey arena that's in downtown or at least close to downtown. A good location helps your attendance not be so terrible. On top of that, they need an actually good owner, you know, not this guy. And beyond that, I don't know, maybe try not wasting the career of your most popular player. Next is Houston, Texas. Now, if you ask me, Houston should absolutely be first in line to get a new NHL team. They're the 4th largest city in the country. They're the 6th largest TV market in the country. Every other major league in North America has a team here. The NHL is missing out. Why they only have one team in the 2nd most populated state is beyond me. They already have a suitable arena, they have a history of supporting pro hockey, and they've already given us NHL talent. The fact that Houston didn't get an NHL team decades ago is insane to me. There is no city better suited to get an expansion team than Houston, and I think their chances of getting one are more than good. Next is Kansas City, Missouri, the city that's known for its barbecue, and that football team that everyone hates. I think a certain someone will agree with me when I say it's time the NHL gives Kansas City a second chance. Kansas City has a state-of-the-art arena in the T-Mobile Center, a building that's already hosted NHL hockey. This arena is in the Power and Light District, which has lots for fans to see and do before and after games. Beyond that, Kansas City boasts very passionate fans in football, baseball, and soccer, and I have a good feeling the same would hold true in hockey. The pieces are all there. I think Kansas City's due for NHL redemption. Next is Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati's another new addition to my list. I decided to include it in this video for 3 reasons. 1, it's the most populated metro area in Ohio. 2, I want to give the Blue Jackets an in-state rival because I genuinely do not think a single fan base in the NHL considers the Blue Jackets to be their rivals. And 3, they have an NHL-sized arena. Granted, it's a bit old, but nothing a little renovations can't fix. If Seattle can do it, so can they. Also, as you can tell by this picture, Cincinnati already has professional hockey, specifically the Cincinnati Cyclones of the ECHL, so they're already well acquainted with the sport. Despite this, Cincinnati is probably low down on the list of cities that are likely to get an NHL team, but I think it is a decent place that's trending in the right direction, and it absolutely should not be overlooked. I can already hear you guys typing.
Atlanta shouldn't get an NHL team because they've already had 2 failed NHL teams and they don't even care about hockey.
And, well, it's interesting you guys bring up the fact that they've had 2 failed teams because you know what other city has also had 2 failed teams? Quebec City! So if you use the "they lost 2 teams" excuse for Atlanta but not Quebec City, you're a hypocrite.
But Quebec actually has hockey fans. People in Georgia don't care about hockey.
Really, is that so? Then explain why Georgia has more professional hockey teams than Quebec. And Ontario. Honestly, if you think NHL hockey can't work in Atlanta, you genuinely need to give your head a shake. We're talking about the 7th largest TV market in the country, a region with a strong economy that's added over 1 million people since they've lost their NHL team, a city with multiple major potential sponsors like Delta Airlines, Home Depot, and Coca-Cola. From a business standpoint, it makes perfect sense that the NHL would want to give Atlanta a 3rd try. And make no mistake, the failure of the Thrashers was not on the fans. It was on the team's awful ownership. Now with all that out of the way, at the time I'm making this, there are plans to build a mixed-use development in Forsyth County, which will include an NHL arena, obviously. Forsyth County is pretty far away from downtown Atlanta, which might be a concern for some people, but the Atlanta Braves saw an uptick in their attendance when they moved from the city limits of Atlanta out to the suburbs. And both of these sports typically tend to appeal to a more suburban crowd, so if it worked for the Braves, I would imagine it would also work for an Atlanta NHL team. I'm not a huge fan of teams playing out in the suburbs, but if it works, it works. Much like Houston, I think the NHL is really missing out by not having a team in Atlanta. If the team is well run and well managed, then that will mean a lot more eyes on the sport, which is what we all ultimately want. Before I reveal the last city, here are my honorable mentions. Cities I think could be good NHL cities, but for multiple reasons probably won't get a team. These reasons being the city being too small, or not having a sufficient arena, or being within another NHL team's territory. If I had to pick one of these cities to get a team, it would definitely be Austin, but I just don't see any of these cities getting a team. Well, maybe Milwaukee, but the rest are a long shot. Maybe in another lifetime, guys. There's a reason I was working from west to east. I wanted to save the best for last. Quebec lost their beloved Nordiques in 1995 when they relocated to Denver. Due to financial struggles, a weak Canadian dollar, and rising player salaries, the team just couldn't stay in Quebec. Despite all of this, the Nordiques were always a well-supported team. Many fans and organizations have been very vocal about how they want a team to return to this city. The city itself has made attempts to attract an NHL team. Most notably, they built the Videotron Center, a state-of-the-art arena that's capable of hosting an NHL team. The NHL has even played preseason games here. And to all the naysayers who say Quebec City is too small, well, Winnipeg is a smaller market than Quebec City and they have an NHL team, so yeah. The people yearn for the Nordiques to return. It's time for NHL hockey to return to this fine city. So those are the 8 cities I would put an NHL team in. Portland and San Diego go in the Pacific, Phoenix, Houston, and Kansas City go in the Central, Cincinnati goes in the Metropolitan, and Atlanta and Quebec go in the Atlantic. So that's my concept for a 40-team NHL. Like I said in the beginning, it's unlikely the NHL will expand to 40 teams. However, it's pretty well known that the NHL wants to keep expanding, and it's decently likely we'll see the league go to 36 teams within the next decade and a half or so, which means we might see 4 new NHL cities in the near future. And of the cities I showcased, I think I can predict which 4 are the most likely to get teams. So, I think the 4 cities that are most likely to get NHL expansion teams are Houston, Kansas City, Atlanta, and Quebec. To accommodate these 4 teams, the Nashville Predators would stay in the Central Division, but Utah Hockey Club would move to the Pacific Division. Also, Atlanta would go in the Metro instead of the Atlantic. They might also create 6 divisions of 6 teams, but that's a discussion for another day. I think these 4 cities make the strongest case for expansion teams, and in my personal opinion, I think these are the 4 cities that deserve a team the most. So anyways, that is my remade 40-team NHL expansion concept. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below, and also let me know what cities you think deserve NHL teams. And one more thing before I go, if you're still watching this video, I assume it means you like hockey, so I'd really appreciate if you checked out Maple Blues, my new podcast with Aiden from Penguin Note, where we talk all things hockey, the St. Louis Blues, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Link in description. So thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.